Hi, everybody. I'm Tanya Marie Dubé, and welcome to The Empowered Woman. I'm so happy that you're here today. I am so happy to introduce my guest today. Her name is Keenya Kelly from If You Brand It. An accomplished business executive, teacher, and inspirational speaker, Keenya found her voice by writing and speaking about understanding your God-given purpose and living up to your fullest potential. Love that. Keenya is the founder and CEO of If You Brand It, a branding and consulting firm in Houston, Texas, where she strategically helps business owners go from the formulation stage of a business to developing million-dollar brands. So happy to have you here, Keenya. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited. I'm excited to be here. Thank you. Thank you. How are you today?
Good. Oh, I'm fantastic. I'm freezing. It's a little bit cold here, I will say.
Yeah.
It's the second time I've had to do my hair today because the rain completely flattened me.
Oh no! Oh, it's terrible.
It's fine. That's like the highlight of living in really cold weather in Canada,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
In the winter.
Our hair does this here. We just get here, so yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to remind everybody that Keenya has a fantastic gift that she's going to tell you all about at the very end of this interview, so please stick around. She's going to teach you how you can use it to benefit you in your life and your business. So let's get started. Let's talk about what you do and who you serve.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a branding and consulting business, and basically the average person comes to me when they have an idea. They are, either they're already existing entrepreneur, but most people are kind of starting out and trying to figure out, one, which direction should I be going in? Once they figure that out, it is what products should I offer? And then how do I build an audience and a brand that will attract these ideal customers? And so most people, I help them from start to finish of building their businesses and brands.
That's awesome. And so I can tell just from getting to know you a little bit that relationships really matter to you. You are all in kind of girl, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, because one thing is that you can sell something to someone and then that's it. But when you're really invested in the relationship, I mean, not only do you make a lot of money, but you have long lasting relationships that can turn into something else that you never would have even thought about.
Isn't that fantastic? I love that.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Now I'm curious to know, what's the biggest problem that your client base has?
I would probably say that most people are very good at what they're good at, but they're bad at what they're bad at. So if you're good at being an attorney or you're good at hair or makeup, then you have no idea about marketing or how to reach your target audience. So most people have no idea what it really takes to build a brand to attract the customer they want to attract so they can make the money that they want to make.
I see. And how do you go about fixing that? What do you do?
Yeah, so one of the first things that I do, especially on consulting calls, is I tell them ahead of time, hey, listen, I'm going to ask you 40,000 questions before I ever give you any advice. So I ask long-term goals as my number one question, where you see yourself 10 years from now? Because most people are building businesses for today, but they don't realize that they're attracting people with $5 because they don't have the long-term focus in mind. And so their words are wrong and their branding is wrong. And so I get their long-term goals and I say, okay, if you're trying to make $1 million a month selling products that are $100,000, you've got to build a brand that eventually is going to attract that man, that woman to that brand. Otherwise, people are going to want to pay you $20 and you're never going to get to $1 million with $20 people.
Yes, that's true. That's true. I love that. Now, because this is an empowerment series and we're talking about empowerment as well, I wanted to know, how did you find your God-given purpose?
Yeah, so I'm I'm a Christian, and so I'm like been in church my entire life, and so I've always had this gift of sales, and it's just kind of like it's just always been there. But I'm a person of prayer, and I'm always asking God, well, what is it I'm called to do? How do I utilize this talent and this talent? And so my whole sales career, I've always read tons and tons of books, and then I had good mentors. Because it's one thing to try to go on your own direction, but when you've got loving people around you that say, you're really good at this, this, and this, and you keep hearing that over and over and over again, you realize whether I believe it or not, there's something to this. And so what I did was I didn't really believe them, but I said, even though I don't believe you, I'm going to act as if I believe you until I believe you. Right. And so I started acting in the role of this personality. And I finally said, yeah, this is who I am. And so more stuff started coming out, but I had to buy into somebody else's faith and belief before I had my own.
Ah, so what was your big dream when you were little? What did you think you were meant to do?
I wanted to be a computer programmer.
What's wrong with that?
Oh my God. I did a job shadowing for 8 hours. I thought I was going to die. He was like, and I was like, oh my God, this is absolutely terrible. And I realized I don't want to be a computer programmer. I just like computers. And
Oh, that's funny.
yeah, I was like, oh my God.
Wow, that's hilarious. I love that. That's really funny. Oh,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, it was the death of me.
Now, I wanted to ask, so obviously in the work that you do, strategy plays a really big part. What does having a strategy mean to you in both your life and your business?
Yeah. So for me, I think strategy helps you with a target. You know, a lot of people just it's kind of like getting in a car and saying, hey, I live in Michigan. I'm going to go to New Orleans today without a map, right? You're never going to get to New Orleans because you have no idea where to go. And so when you look at your life and you know, okay, at the end of my life, this is where I want to end up. Or like for me, I'm single and I have kids. And I said, okay, when I have kids and I'm married, what do I want that life to be like? I had to kind of create my own yellow brick road of what I wanted to look like. And even in my business. And when I do that, it keeps me from one, doing things that have nothing to do with the ultimate goal, right? If I meet a man or whatever, and he doesn't look like this road, meaning that he's a rock star and he's going to take me over here, then I'm like, this is not the right man or plan. Or someone pitches me with a business idea. If it doesn't look like the road I'm trying to go down, it tells me this may be a good idea, but it's not a God idea because it's going to take me off track. And so when I have a strategy, I'm not really rocked everywhere with people because I know where I'm going.
It's not a God idea. I like that. That's really important thing to remember, that when you have a plan and you know what path you're on, it's not to say it's fixed, but it is to say that you have to know where you're going with it.
Right. Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I love how when you were talking about finding a man, you did this, a man. What does this mean?
Well, I mean, because I think that I'm a beautiful girl and I can meet men all the time. I mean, it's like men are just available all the time, but it doesn't mean that that's the right man for me. Or, you know, sometimes men will say, well, you got to submit. And it's like, I'm all about submission. It's in the Bible, but I'm like, but what am I submitting to? Who are you? Where are you going? Are you going to lead me down the road to like hell or what's really going to happen? You know what I mean? So there's a man, but then it's like, you gotta really, okay, are you really a man or are you just a boy and you look like a man?
Oh, I know, right? That's a really important point to make. Is he gonna take you down the wrong road? This is what I think too many women get into too young. When you get into a relationship that's like a forever relationship too young, I mean, how do you know where you're gonna end up with this person?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Because a lot of times we don't even know ourselves. And, you know, I don't say anything against people that did it early, but it's definitely beneficial when you kind of do it later because you know who you are. You have an idea of what you're trying to do, what you need, not just what you like, but what you need. And you can make a more calculated decision versus, oh my God, I love him, you know.
For now. I love him for now.
For now, yeah.
Right? How much do you change in your 20s? I found that really unbelievable. When I was 17, I wouldn't say that I would have said to you, you know what, I know everything, you don't have to teach me anything, but I kind of felt like, what else am I really going to learn here? Like, I remember feeling that way. And then in my 20s at 25, I was like, who was that 17-year-old jerk that I was acting out as? And then when I turned 30, I was like, what just happened the last decade?
Yeah, absolutely. I think about the guy that I dated when I was at my 16. Yeah. You know, it's like, but why did I like him? I just wanted to be loved. But now at 36, there's no way I wouldn't even give that dude my cell phone charger. Like, you know, not a bad person, but it's like, no, I won't trust you with my charger. Like, I sure won't trust you in a relationship, you know, but you don't know that when you're 17 until you get to 36.
It's true. You don't really know much of anything until, well, you need experience, right? You need a contrast and comparison. This is the other thing. You need to compare.
Yeah, you need to go through life.
True. Right. Okay, so now I'm going to get into the 8 questions that I ask every entrepreneur who comes onto this, entrepreneur, business owner, life coach. I want everybody to let us know what you think about life and what inspires you. Yeah. Okay, so the first question I have for you is, what inspires you?
I would say the future, because I think about, I'm not married again, but I think about having this life where I'm encouraging people and I'm helping people. And I just think about having this little girl or little boy in the audience and they're like, that's my mom. you know, or I think about being in other countries and there's people that are saying, here comes Keenya Kelly. And it's not because I'm famous, it's because I've helped them in some way, form, or fashion. So for me, it's like all the roadblocks and things that I go through in life is like, at some point, there's going to be a person or a group of people that's looking up to me going, because of you, I didn't give up. And that really keeps me going, you know? Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's a really cool answer. You know, your answer reminded me of an answer when someone asked me this question years ago. My answer is similar to that, like having someone look up at you was I always used to imagine all of the women who came before me. Like I would try to picture them all in my mind, right? Like I know some of my family history, so I can go back as far as like the middle 1600s. So then I know, right? It's an interesting story. So then I think about her, the woman that married my first ancestor here in Canada from Paris.
Yeah.
And then I think about all of the people that have come after and all the hard things that they've had to go through in order for me to have this moment right now here with you, and even broader to have, you know, my life in my hands and to, you know, what am I going to do with it?
Wow.
All these women are looking at me. I can picture them too, all these like crazy French women with their hands on their hips going, seriously, do you know what I gave up for you? And this is like, do something, right? Just do something.
Yeah.
So I imagine this, and I have a, you know, I told you this before, I have a 12-year-old daughter, and I talk about this stuff with her all the time. I'm like, just imagine everything everyone's ever gone through to give you what you have right now.
Right. Yeah. When you,
right?
and when you think about it that way, it changes your perspective because you're thinking about me, but you're like, what did grandma really have to go through, you know, to have this, or great grandpa, or, you know, one of my family members, Holocaust survivors, like what did they have to do to get to the other side? Most people don't think that way, but when you hear that, you're like, it just kind of changes how you think about things. It makes you less selfish.
Yeah, can you picture all the women of your family line looking at you going, options, right? You have options and you have choice. Like, I just think, holy moly, this is like amazing.
Yeah, that's very inspiring to think about. I had never thought about that prior to today, but that changes things because it's like cool. They did what they did, and here I am, and it's like, no, this ain't because of you. It's because of all of what they did too. So that's encouraging. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. I like that. I'm curious to know what, in your opinion, it means to have an awakened life.
So because I'm very spiritual, I would say that is, I'm aware of the creator. I'm aware that God created man, God created earth. I'm aware that God is in control. But I'm also aware that there is a negative force that's trying to steer me in the wrong direction, that's trying to get me off track, and that's trying to discourage me. And so when I think about being awakened, I think about that. Here I am in this earth with this amazing God who has this perfect plan for me. If I have a conversation with him on a regular basis, I can make easier, right choices. If I have a conversation with the God that I believe in, then I'm going to have the life that I can't even imagine, because I have a plan of what it looks like. But if I'm awakened to the one that created me, my life is going to be drastically different than what I could ever imagine, because he has bigger plans than I do.
I love that. Okay, now just as an aside question, now I'm curious to know, what do you do when you're super stressed out? You pray?
I cry. That's like the number one thing. I cry and I pray. Like typically on a regular basis, every morning I pray maybe about 10, 15, 20 minutes. And typically I cry every morning. And it's not because I'm sad. A lot of times it's just like, wow, God, thank you for rescuing me from this, because I went through divorce and all that stuff. Thank you for not giving me what I thought I wanted. Thank you for the plans that you have. Because he's been telling me, Keenya, you're going to be doing all this stuff. And I'm like, I don't quite believe it, but I'll walk this walk with you anyway. And I just thank him most days, because I know that he's got this big plan and I get to be a part of it. So stress comes, I cry. And then if it gets really, really heavy, then I'll call like 5 of my friends and go, hey, here's what's up. I'm at this breaking point. I need you to pray. And then they all just pray. They all pray.
Oh, that's really sweet. Well, there's power in numbers. And I think that when we're focused so heavily on wanting and needing an answer, it comes, right? I do believe that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. I love what you just said about thank you, God, for not giving me what I thought I wanted. This thought occurred to me before. this thought occurred to me. You know what I was going to do? I was going to run off and I was going to move to Hollywood and I was going to be a big famous actress. And I was on my way to that. I was an actress for a very, very long time, professionally trained. And I was scared of people and really shy. I'm an introvert who's learned how to be an extrovert, pretty much. So, but here's the thing: in the year that my friend and I were going to go, we were just going to go hitchhiking to California. These two girls turned up dead, and they were around the same age as us, and they were on their way on the same like path that we would have been on, and it was like it really scared the two of us drastically, and we never ended up going. And I think about that sometimes, and I wonder, like, has he just not given me this because this is what I thought I wanted, but that was not supposed to be my path? Like, it just didn't.
Wow.
So I stayed acting, but it never turned into anything like that.
Wow.
It was interesting. I know. And then the whole fame thing too kind of freaked me out a little bit, like watching people not even be able to go to the store, or people taking naked pictures of them. And I thought, really? Like, what kind of a life is that?
Yep. I always say that about famous people. People idolize them, but they don't realize all of what their life entails. Their Facebook and social media look so glamorous, but they have to stay skinny. They can't lose their teeth. Nothing can be off about them. Everything has to be perfect. They have to make the right decision, the right words. They got to give away their money. And I'm like, dude, this is a hard life. So I'm not surprised.
They're watching you. They're watching you all the time. And I thought, would I really want people watching? Who's to say? I mean, I may not have ever made it that far, but I think ahead. I'm like you. I have a plan and a strategy, and I think ahead. And I thought, I don't know that that's the life that I would want. I would be like Johnny Depp, and I'd go buy an island somewhere and just stay there.
Yeah. I'm not surprised when celebrities go away to a different country. It's like they want peace. They want something, and it's not in LA some days, so yep.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, my next question for you is, what can we learn when we fall down?
I would probably say you could, more than likely when you fall down, you learn your actual strength. You learn what's in you, and you learn what's not in you, right? I know for me personally, when I got married, like it was like October, and by July we were going through divorce, and it was like, the hardest point in my life, hands down. And when I look back at it, I'm like, okay, what was the greatest thing about it? The greatest thing about that time was I had so much knowledge in me. I had so many books and CDs and encouragement. And so it was like, I didn't go crazy. I didn't go postal. I didn't go social media haywire, because prior to all of that, I had already been reading and, and God and all that. And I was able to hold on to all of that during that time. And that's what helped me to kind of bounce back so fast. But not only that, it made me realize just how dependent I was on a person for happiness, right? How dependent I was on friends liking me and doing the right things. And so when you fall, it's an opportunity for you to go, okay, here's where I am. I need help. And so I believe that people should begin to call on God, in that time. You begin to realize just how powerful he is, how comforting he is when nobody else is there, if you open yourself up to stuff like that. But then you also realize your strength, that life is going to move on. You're not going to die just because this happened. You can bounce back. And when people choose to go, okay, here it is, and then they get back up, you realize I could fall again and get back up. That's like when people like Donald Trump lose $45 million, they can make it back again in 2 years because they already made it before. Now it sucks down here, but they know how to make it back faster, and they appreciate the downtimes and the up times.
Wow, I love everything you just said, and I really do love the idea. Excuse me. I think that whether we call, the maker or God or the source or the universe, whatever people call it, to understand that there is something spiritual, really deeply spiritual attached to that, and that we're not alone. Right. This is the other thing. When you're in those, you can have a million friends, but when you are in the recesses of that kind of depression or anxiety, going through something like divorce, which I know firsthand, you need to know that you are not by yourself. That's the thing, right? Mm-hmm. Wow, I love that. So now tell me, how did you find the strength then to get back up? I guess it was in prayer, and it was with your friends. Yeah, your friendships.
So most of it was in prayer. I mean, it was catastrophic, and I just told myself, I got to do a couple things. One, I've got to go to counseling. And so I enrolled in counseling, but then I chose to just like really dive into pray. And I prayed all the time. I cried all the time. And then I had a circle of people that weren't talking negatively about him or whatever. I just kind of did this to the world and said, this is my group. Let me stay right here. And I just prayed and prayed and prayed. And in the moments when I felt like a failure, instead of me just feeling like that, I would text somebody and say, hey, this is how I'm feeling today. And people would just pray. And so I could have easily just kind of sunk. But I was like, okay, I've been trained my whole life on business and how to help people. I'm at that place. I need help. So I've got to be vulnerable to a group of people, and I have to have people on instant access. And so I willingly told my friends, this is where I am. It's going to be a while. I can't really be a good friend to you right now, but this is what I need out of our friendship. And the ones that said yes, I would reach out. And it wasn't every day, but it was pretty often initially. And then it just got less and less. And I just kept praying and praying and praying and praying and praying and crying and praying. And that is what helped me get back. Instead of acting like I wasn't hurt, I sat in it and said, I'm hurt, I'm disappointed, I'm angry. And just was honest about every single part of the process. When I wanted to do crazy stuff, I just wrote it down. Instead of doing it, I would just write it. So I wouldn't act it out, you know?
Yeah. For anybody who's never gone through divorce, I'll just say that it's a nuts process, and your mind will go to places it shouldn't go.
Yes. Yeah. Your emotions, your dreams, everything is like crazy.
Yeah, your dreams, everything. Yeah, you're right. Good for you that you stepped up into your leadership like that. I find a lot of people have a hard time asking for help, and they kind of just go into this little place, this cocoon of just like trying to self-soothe and heal. Yeah, that was good that you did that. I think you're very, I love your energy, and you hold your space so confidently. And I know that that's got to be because you've looked for experiences, you've had experiences, you have a very deep connection to your spirituality. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
One of the things I would say about myself is I'm a very self-aware type of person. Like I know my ups, I know my downs. I just know them and I own them. You know, I'm like, I tell especially when I meet new people and they're like, oh my God, you're so amazing. I'm like, listen, my attitude. If you cross me on the wrong day, I'm going to say the wrong thing. And they're like, what? Don't get caught up in the hype. I got issues. And they go, oh, okay. And I bring people back down to reality because I don't want you to be disappointed when it comes. And they're like, oh, so when it comes, nobody's surprised.
That's so funny. That's just like a preface to knowing you. I should carry that around with me. Just so you know.
Warning. No.
Just so you know, I'm going to have a bad day.
Right.
Now, let me ask you this. What was the most difficult decision you've ever had to make to pursue your destiny?
It would have to be the divorce. So we had a unfortunate situation of a betrayal on his end or whatever. And when it happened, I had a choice. I had a choice of praying and staying and fasting and staying and praying and all that. And after like a month, I was like, this is nuts. Like to myself, I had to say, do you know who you are? Does he know who you are? And then leaving and then making the actual decision to file. I did that like 60 days later. Was like, this is not, you know, especially when someone's not repentant. They're just like, you know, whatever. But I knew that there was more to me. There was more to life. I knew that there would be somebody who would love me, who would honor me, who would appreciate my drive, who would appreciate my desires and wouldn't betray me. And that decision to do that unlocked all of this stuff because I was making $22,000 a year when I was married. I had all these gifts and they were just kind of dying. You know, I had all this personality and it was just dying. But the moment I said, I choose me, whoosh, everything came alive. Like within 18 months, I was making $200,000 a year.
Wow.
But it was a hard choice. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's right. We talked a little bit about that when we first met.
Yeah.
That's incredible that you could do that. But you know what I find even more incredible? That you had the wherewithal to know what your self-worth was.
Yeah.
Period. You know, and I'm not saying anything against people who forgive and get through it. And now you have like a happy, thriving relationship, which I think is fantastic. Absolutely. But when the other person's not even sorry or they're not even like, they don't really even care. I mean, that would kill you.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. My thing, I was like, because people were like, no, stay and pray. And I was like, okay, let me silence these people. what am I really worth? You know, it's like, God, what are you saying? God was like, well, he was just talking to me about stuff. And I was like, oh, so why did I even get into it? He said, you got into it because you were desperate and you thought that you couldn't find anybody else. What?
Oh.
You know, so when you kind of get
that you came down to that conclusion, because that's a hard truth.
Yeah.
I came to some pretty hard truths about mine too. You just gave me like goosebumps and tears in my eyes, because it's true. I mean, we can lie to ourselves, can't we? We can lie to ourselves endlessly, but the truth of the matter really comes down to, well, you chose this person because there was a lesson for you. You were supposed to learn something out of this, right?
Oh yeah, I learned a whole lot. No disrespect to him, but I learned who I was and why I was doing what I was doing. It was like, okay, this is terrible, but praise God.
And that's the lesson. That's what you were supposed to learn. And now look at you.
Yeah, praise God. I got men out the woodwork like, hey girl, and I'm like,
You know what? I feel exactly the same right now. I've got other things to do, right? I've got children to raise. I've got a business. I'm growing this amazing business. Yes. I don't have time for the game playing and all of that. Exactly. One day you and I will talk about our dating experiences. We'll do it together.
Oh my God. Yes. Another broadcast.
You'll be in Texas telling me about it, and I'll be here in Toronto.
Yeah.
Now, I'm really curious to know what your answer to this is going to be. What do you think is the purpose of the human experience?
Because I am, and sorry, I got this cat that's getting ready to try to get her fame.
That's okay.
She's like coming on. Because I am very spiritual, I believe that we're all created to, for the greater good. We're all created we all have gifts and talents. And these talents are supposed to be used to build up the world and create this amazing world and then help other people. I believe that, and of course in Jesus with the Bible. And so I believe that we are disciples and our job is to help get people saved and, you know, help people to lead this fruitful existence. And it's not all about church and yada, 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 but we have these amazing talents. Somebody created the light bulb. Somebody created water bottles. And if everybody really tapped into who they were designed to be, can you imagine what could happen in the world? There probably wouldn't be cancer. There wouldn't be AIDS. There wouldn't be all this stuff because people would be knowing who they are, who they were created to be, and they would be doing that on purpose. They wouldn't be killing each other or selling drugs. It would be, we're all out doing what we're called to be. And I think that is the purpose of creation.
That's a really good point. And I came across this idea that's connected to that a few years ago, where I was thinking, what if that crazy person who went and like shot up a whole school was taught to look at his gifts and his talents and where his purpose lies, and all of that frustration and horror that he was feeling himself inside would have been like put into something that could have done something miraculous or life-changing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You got a kid who is, since birth, wasn't wanted and wasn't nurtured and wasn't loved. And it goes through this system and who knows what happened and what mental thing starts happening to a kid, and they get deceived and they go and do stupid stuff because at birth, the parents didn't know how to love them. The parents didn't know how to raise them and how to nurture them. And then they turn into a murderer. You know, it's like, Yeah,
you can't really be surprised by that.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, it's sad because he could have made a better choice, but you're not surprised when that happens because of how the person is raised.
Oh my Lord, you know, you're making me think. So you know that I was raised in the foster care system. I know you already know this about me. I was in, 8 different foster homes by the time I was 10 years old. And I think by the, grace of God that I had the last family that I did fight to keep me for many years. And it was because of them in my formative years. Now, I was raised by grandparents. So sometimes the things that come out of my mouth are very old fashioned and way older than my age, which is really funny. Yeah. But I was raised with these very traditional values. And, one of the things that I was taught by the woman that raised me, I called her my nanny, was to be self-sufficient. And, the only self-preservation really is in knowledge. So to learn and to educate yourself. I don't know that she would have said it in so many words. Remember I told you she would throw these books at me and just be like, do it. But yeah, that's interesting. So not everybody who goes through the system ends up,
right.
And in that place, but most do. And I realize how lucky I am that wasn't
Yeah, absolutely. That's like anyone that's not loved properly. I wasn't even in foster care, but my parents had a hard time figuring out how to be a parent. And I found myself in identity issues and rejection and all that. And they could have easily drew me over here, but thank God that didn't happen to me, but it happened to other people, you know? So yeah.
I see that too. I went through, oh my God, identity issues. Good Lord. That went on for me for a really long time, where I was really pretending to be a certain something on the outside. And inside I was all like, what do you do now? Like, it was nuts. Oh, okay, I'll just drink all of that alcohol. It was like, what do you do? I was like without instruction for a very long time.
Yeah. Oh, that's so many people in all types of situations.
Oh man. Now let me ask you this, because of the path that you've been on. What advice would you give your younger self?
Let me see. My younger self, it would probably be, don't be so angry at what wasn't, what my dad wasn't, what my mom wasn't. And then it would probably be study more, because no one in my house was like forcing me to study, forcing me to be studious. And so I went through school, I got C's, and I went on to college, but I know that I probably could have done even more. I could have been more disciplined. That's what I would say. I could have been more disciplined if I would have chosen to study more, even though nobody cared to make me study. It hasn't negatively affected me in my adult life, but I can only imagine how much further I would be in business if I was extremely disciplined when I was a young kid.
Wow, that's really cool. Discipline. That's a really good answer.
Yeah.
Now, my last question for you is, what do you think the purpose of forgiveness is? What's the purpose of forgiveness?
So I think it's for two people. I think it's for the person that you're forgiving, because even if they never say anything, when someone hurts you, they know they've hurt you, right? And when you go back and you let them know you forgive them, it may not do anything for them in that moment, or it may, but then not only that, it's for you, because bitterness turns into all types of stuff. You know, it digs a deep root, right? So I'll give you an example. I remember when, it's gonna sound kind of deep. I remember when I was going through the divorce process, and he was taking the documents and changing them. And my attorney was like, if he keeps doing this, you're not going to get divorced. And I was like, well, I don't know what else to do. And so I was just praying. And then I heard God tell me to write him a note, write him a letter. What? And he said, write him a letter. And I sat down, and the first line I wrote was, I forgive you. And I didn't lay out anything of what happened. I just began to bless him in a way that only a wife could. And I just wrote out all these blessings to him, like a 2-page long letter. I blessed his future wife, future kids, his finances, all that.
Wow.
And I handed it to the liaison. And when she gave it to him, I got the divorce papers back like 24 hours later.
No. So maybe he was going through the pain of having hurt you. He needed someone to say that he was released from that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think it also, for him, it makes him feel like, so I did this bad thing to this person, but they're not mad at me. I can't believe it. Right. And then for me, it released me, but I had to continue to forgive, because, you know, my desire is to be fruitful in relationships in general. And so when someone has betrayed you, you look at everybody like they're going to betray you, whether it's your mom, your dad, your coach, or your husband, your kids. And I had to forgive, because I one day want to be married, and I don't want to look at him the same way at him because of what he did. And so I had to forgive the act and forgive the apology that I never got, so that I could heal and be able to give another person everything, and not just a piece, because I'm holding unforgiveness from this person.
Wow, that's powerful. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh yeah, you're welcome.
Powerful. Because that's a really hard thing to do.
Yeah. What? Right? Nope. What? But I did it, and it felt so freeing. It felt so freeing that I made a copy of it.
Wow.
Yes, and I have the intent on, when I meet my husband, and when he asks me how did everything end, I will say I want to hand him the note and say, this is how it ended.
Wow, that's really something else. I love that you have that inside of you to do that.
Like,
I mean, you changed his life probably. Now he's going to go on with his life and he's not going to make the same choices probably.
Hopefully not.
Right? He's not going to have this monkey on his back either.
No,
I think that's
definitely not me. I'm off. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're so lovely. That's
I'm
really
so grateful. Listen. The angry me did not want to write the note. Let's just keep that all the way real.
But you knew enough to listen to your intuition or to your voice, you know, to God speaking to you. And I think that's the most powerful thing. And I think listening to my intuition is one of the things that has saved my life many times.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? It's powerful. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now let's get to your free gift. I want you to talk all about your free gift and how everybody can use it.
Yes. So what I did, guys, was I created a branding quiz because the average person is trying to figure out what's my brand and all that. And so I have a free branding personality quiz. It's only 12 short questions. And when you take it, the results you're going to get is going to tell you your brand personality. So I'm the magician. And then there's the lover, the sage, the creator, and all that. Then it will give you your recommended fonts, recommended colors, and then the possible strengths and weaknesses of your brand. So you can go to mybrandpersonality.com and then take the quiz and it will give you your results. It's fun.
Oh my
it's
goodness. Easy. And even for people who may not be in business for themselves, who are watching this on the off chance, they can use it for fun. I think that sounds like a really fun thing.
Yeah. It helps you see yourself as, wow, like, is that really me? And if you really are honest, you'll say, yeah, that's me.
If you're really honest. I love that. Well, thank you so much for being here. You are a lovely interview. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you. It was definitely an honor. And it's very healing to kind of talk about all the things we talked about. So thank you.
That's wonderful. Thanks again. I just wanted to let everybody know that as usual, Keenya and I would love to hear what you have to say. So let us know how any part of this interview you can use in your life, or if we triggered something and you just really want to get it off your chest, anything like that. We would love to hear from you, just to know your thoughts. So thank you again to everybody. Thank you to Keenya for coming today. You are watching The Empowered Woman. It's the place to come to challenge your fears, powerfully live the life that you want, and step into your influence as the awesome woman that we know you are. So thank you everybody again, and we will see you next time. Bye. Bye, Keenya.